Well, it's day after Ash Wednesday. For the first time in a really long time, um, I'm embarking on a Lenten sacrifice observance. I used to do it a lot back when I was a practicing Catholic. I would give up essentially everything. I would give up sweets. I would give up pastries. I would give up chocolate. I would give up alcohol. I'd give up caffeine, coffee, even right, even the pleasure of even decaffeinated coffee. I would just like no, okay, we're gonna drop all of that stuff. I would choose to do that for two reasons. One was as a dietary cleanse, right? As a energetic cleanse, right? The dietary cleanse part is pretty straightforward, right? It's the not putting things in your body that aren't good for you. And the energetic part was about facing the nature of the desire to have the things that weren't good for me. Now, you can sort of like say, well, the nature of the desires can be very simply categorized as, oh, they're pleasurable, right? So they give me pleasure, so that's why I want them. But I think there's something much more to be understood about this nature of desire. And, if we take it as just sort of like monochrome, one-dimensional thing like that, then we certainly learn something, but I think there's more to learn. So, like, what is the nature of a particular desire? What's the nature of your desire for chocolate? What's the nature of your desire for a Boston cream chocolate covered donut? What's the nature of your desire for that salty margarita? What is that? When you actually encounter the desire and don't satisfy the desire, you leave yourself in a place of conscious wanting, conscious desiring, and you pay attention to what arises. It turns out desire is really quite complex. So, understanding the desire can very often change the notions of how to optimally satisfy the desire. Vegging out in front of the TV. There's a desire and a satisfaction of desire that comes from vegging out in front of the TV. And we can be satisfied with that. Or we can feel into what that feeling is. Like, okay, what is the feeling that I get by vegging out in front of the TV? And why did I want that feeling? Right? They're different things, right? The desire and the satisfaction of desire, they're different things. So when we stay conscious to our desire without satisfying it, we end up with a better set of solutions, or better, more, let's say, efficient set of solutions to satisfying our desires, because we understand the nuances of our desires better. Well, that right there, right, this efficiency in satisfying our desires is a kind of alignment, right? It's an alignment of our will, our egoic choice, with our lived experiences, how it's making us feel. And it's also, or at least for me, it's one interpretation of the yogic concept of Bramacharya. Bramacharya is the third of the five yamas. The five yamas are five prescriptions for behavior, one of which is Bramacharya. And Brahma is the name for God and the creation and all of that together, that is ever present and ever changing. And Charya, I believe, means to walk with, or to adhere to, or to hew to align with. So two things happen when we do a better job of understanding our desires and efficiently satisfying our desires. One is that we do a better job of satisfying our desires. It seems fairly obvious, right? But let's just probe that for another couple of thoughts. We do a better job of satisfying our desires for a couple of reasons. One is that we understand them better. We understand them in a more articulate way, with a higher resolution, say. We also understand a little bit more about how we have misunderstood them. Like, oh, that really wasn't what I wanted. That feeling? Oh, that really wasn't what I wanted. So, the more we pay attention to that kind of thing, the more likely we are to be efficient at understanding the true nature of our desires as they arise in our lives. So we understand our desires better. We develop a better filter on clarifying a more focused lens on our desires, and we become more articulate, more agile, more coordinated in how we apply the will to fulfilling our desires, right? So, everything from a gustatory desire, like for sweets or something, to a career aspiration, right? Like, we just get better at tuning into what is that desire? How legitimate is it, right? How substantive is it in my understanding of it, right? So the desire, something is there, but how well do I really understand it? And how important is it, right? Why is it rising to my attention now? And then how can I be adept at satisfying it? And then another thing that happens as a result of that is that we have more energy for other things. The availability of life force energy, our disposable income, so to speak, goes up because we're spending less energy, less chi, on things that aren't really efficiently satisfying our needs and our desires. Once we do get better at that, we get money back that we were investing in something inefficient. We get it back and can use it for other things. And by the way, the other things that we're going to use it for, we have a better understanding of them because those other things are also our desires. Right? So we just get better at living because we become more efficient at satisfying our desires. This doesn't mean indulgent. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about understanding the self so that when we apply energy on something, it's consciously chosen and wisely allocated. So we get the best bang for our chi. We get the best possible outcome from the application of our life force. So Bramacharya, this aligning of our life force with the divine, let's say, it may be as simple as having the clarity to understand our true nature and our true desire or desires, and developing our capacity to live our life in ways that allows us to actualize as much of that, the true desire, as there is in us. Because after all, the reason we exist is because we want to do stuff, right? We're animated so that we can do stuff, right? So our desire is really our first mover, right? Like having a body means you want to breathe, right? That's like a first desire is to breathe. So we want to satisfy that desire, and that's not an indulgence. That's not excess. Desire isn't bad. The lack of understanding of desire, the lack of understanding of the self in the presence of desire, that can be bad. So our walk with God, our Bramacharya, our capacity to develop a good alignment for the application of our life energy towards the highest purpose, is effectuated is aided by a kind of spiritual discipline, kind of spiritual self-discipline. And that spiritual self-discipline is really simple. It's almost goes without saying, right? Is to pay attention. To pay attention deeply enough to your own lived experience that the actions you take are efficient and conscious in the pursuit of the satisfaction of your desires. And so that spiritual discipline, it's a discipline. It's a skill, okay? It's a craft. And it's also like a muscle that you have to exercise, right? You need to build capacity. And one of the ways we build capacity for spiritual discipline is to choose things that require discipline, like staying in the presence of your desire without satisfying your desire, right? Stepping back from satisfying the desire to being present with the desire. Like when I got home from class today, I thought, well, yeah, chocolate. Why? Why do I want that chocolate? What is it about it? In that moment, right? In that moment. Because sometimes I want chocolate for one reason, and sometimes I want chocolate for another reason. As with the many of the things that satisfy our desires, it's really the desire, not the thing that satisfies the desire, that is illuminating. And we're just trying to find the best puzzle piece to drop into the desire spot. And there might be many different puzzle pieces that are slightly different shaped or radically differently shaped. It's an opportunity for inquiry. How do we understand what our desire is, and how do we then articulately satisfy it? Now there's a lot to say about spiritual discipline, about the way that we as humans have, what's the right way to say this? Construed what's effective spiritual discipline, how we've inculcated spiritual discipline into our largely religious practices, rites of initiation and so on as well. A lot to be said about, let's call it, the unintended consequences of spiritual discipline as applied through human institutions like religions. A friend of mine just posted that he was being drawn back towards Islam, a practice that was not native to his family, as far as I know, and he had studied as a spiritual quest, kind of, for a couple of years, and then now he's being drawn back to Islam for, very specifically, partly for the aesthetic, because he likes the aesthetic, and there's a lot of math and beauty and all that in Islam. But also for the spiritual discipline. He's feeling a calling towards spiritual discipline because it's a muscle. It's a muscle. You have to exercise it to stay fit in it, so that you can gracefully and efficiently have your Bramacharya, your walk with God. And sometimes, we get distracted by life, we get distracted by injury, we get distracted by a relationship that was more than we thought we could handle, whatever, right? Job stuff. And we can get out of shape. We can become the equivalent of a spiritual couch potato. And we got to work our way back. And if we want to experience ever richer intimacies with the divine, we need to continue to get more and more fit, right? And one of the fitnesses that we need to have is spiritual discipline, right? It's because we're holding ourselves basically we're trying to run as efficiently as possible, and that doesn't just happen automatically. It's like there's a lot of variables in our lives that, and a lot of choices that we make. What food am I going to have when? Am I going to go out to dinner? Am I going to have a drink with friends? Like all of these decisions are consequential to the efficiency of the flow of our life force into the satisfaction of our desires. And, I want to say desires. I also want to say yearnings, right? Our yearnings. Because we're here to experience the evolution of ourselves through our yearnings, right? Through our desires. So how efficiently are we doing that, right? And what does it take to be efficient at doing that? Discipline. Spiritual discipline. Fitness, spiritual fitness. We can say discipline, or we can say fitness, right? I'm a fitness professional. Like it's the same kind of thing. Like we need to have good cardiovascular and good strength, good flexibility, agility in our spiritual walk, just as surely as we need to have it in our physical bodies. The good news is, a lot of the same things that make that work in your body make it work in your spirit walk as well, as long as you're paying attention. Right? As long as you're paying attention. Pay attention. Choose again. The choice might be the same choice. I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm not going to eat chocolate. Pay attention. Feel the energy of the desire, the yearning. Spend as much time feeling it as you need to really and truly understand it. And decide how to allocate your chi. Because there's also all these other competing desires that we have. All these other yearnings. How are we going to slot our chi into these different elements of our yearnings? The mosaic of our yearnings. Well, Bramacharya gives us the best possible shot because it tunes us to be attentive. And spiritual disciplines like deprivation, giving up something for Lent or going on a fast, they cleanse, they de-energize certain energy signatures in the body, right? Certain physiological things as well. They break them down. They're not reinforced. And we get more adept at understanding what we really want. And we get more adept at how to satisfy what we really want. So good luck with your Lenten observances and observations. Come along with me. I gave up a bunch of stuff just so that I could feel what it was like to be wanting those things and to see what happens at the end.